Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Hashtag Clocked In with me, your host, Jordan Edwards. I'm thrilled to have you tune in as we dive into the dynamic world of productivity, success, and stories of incredible individuals who've mastered the art of getting things done. Whether you're commuting, hitting the gym, or just relaxing at home, this podcast is the go-to source for inspiration and actionable tips to level up your productivity game. I'm on a mission to unravel the secrets of those who seem to effortlessly manage their time and achieve their goals. So if you're ready to clock in and unlock your full potential, you're in the right place. We've got a lineup of amazing guests, industry experts, and thought leaders who will share their insights and strategies to help us crush your to-do list and make the most out of every moment. Get ready to get inspired, motivated, and equipped with the tools you need to supercharge your productivity. This is Hashtag Clocked In with Jordan Edwards. Let's dive in.
Whenever you are.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I got a special guest here. We have Thomas Ryan. He's the CEO and founder of Big League Sales, and he's an AI expert. So, Thomas, glad to have you here. Tell us, how are you using AI nowadays? I hear ChatGPT and I hear automation this. Like, how do you use AI nowadays?
Jordan, thank you so much for having me on board, first off. I really appreciate it. So with AI, AI is going to do everything that you do on a computer better than a human can do this year, next year, the year after, literally everything. So it's going to be the biggest change that we've ever seen. This is like the internet on steroids. So how am I using it? We sat down, at the beginning of this year, and I said to my team, I want us using AI in everything that we do. So we're using AI to, number one, write our blogs, right? This is something pretty much anyone can do. You go to an SEO expert and they're like, oh yeah, we'll charge you $3,000 a month and we'll get you 8 wonderful articles with lots of keywords, right? Well, ChatGPT can do probably a better job than 99% of those guys, and do it at, 10, 20, 50 times the scale, right? So we have, they were telling you, oh, we'll get you 8 articles a month. We're putting out about 300 articles a month right now with one guy who's in charge of it, on the SEO side.
Absolutely. And I've seen this occur with, so me and Thomas had a prep call and he started running me through my analytics on my website, which I haven't looked at in years. And I started doing not advertisements, but I started doing blog posts because of the AI with the podcast, where it automatically will write you a blog post and I bring it over and I put it in a blog and I email the list, et cetera, et cetera. And Thomas was like, your SEO actually looks great. And that was because I was putting out one blog post a week for the past 3 months. But it doesn't take a whole lot to move the needle nowadays.
No, it really doesn't. And this is something that, you could probably do in 15 minutes a week, right?
Yeah.
And I'm being generous with the 15 minutes. It might be more like 5. But, it's something that anyone can do. So, that's one of the first things that just literally any business can do is start putting out some content about their business, about what they do, about their industry, using these tools. So again, if you're a professional writer, sure, maybe you're better than it, but it certainly writes better than I do.
Exactly. And basically, just so everyone understands, essentially what ends up happening is when you type into Google hair salon, people are like, which hair salon comes up? It's the ones with the ratings, it's the ones with the SEO. And that's why if you have more content on your webpage and more backlinks through posting all these blogs, it causes it to rise up so that you are seen earlier in that process.
Yeah, and we're finally paying some dividends from that. I think we got in about 300 organic clicks in the last couple of days.
Oh, awesome.
So it takes a little bit of time, but, it starts working. And I could do a whole thing on the technical pieces of SEO, but the big thing is you need your website to be fast. And you want to make sure that it ranks well on Google. And you can probably hire someone on Fiverr who can do most of this for you for, pennies on the dollar and get that set up. And then you just check it out on PageSpeed Insights or Pingdom. You Google those, and it'll literally tell you every issue you have with your website and how to fix it for free.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Thomas, tell the audience, where did your journey start? Because I think you
Well,
have a pretty, yeah, you go.
yeah, so I was going to finish the first question.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
other
keep
things
going.
we're doing with ChatGPT is we're actually using it to write emails at scale. So we'll be
Oh,
able to take a
wow.
list. We'll be able to take the slug on there, right? So the website, abc.com, right? Walmart.com, grab their website, strip off the HTML, and then write a personalized message that looks like it took you a half hour, an hour to write.
Wow.
To everyone on a list. So we'll do that to 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 people, where the AI will literally just do all the work for you. And it will be like, here's what you do. Here's why we think we're a great fit for what you do. Here's a use case. And it'll spit that out. And we set up the rules that it does it by. And you say, here's the 10 or 15 different rules of how we want this thing to be written, and we feed that prompt into ChatGPT. And when I say feed the prompt in, you literally just write it and then hit send, like you're doing an email or just submitting anything, any form, and
And
it'll spit that out.
and just to give more perspective, what is ChatGPT if the audience hasn't heard about it as it came out about, I think it was about a year ago.
Yeah, so ChatGPT is the primary tool. It's the primary large language model, which what it means is they've basically taken the entire content of the internet, right? Everything that you would find on Google, and they fed it into it. And it has written everything that has ever been, everything on the internet ever since the beginning of time. And they use that to kind of show different ways to write things. And
Yeah.
then when you ask a question, it's literally seeing everything that's ever been written on the internet. And it says, well, what should this look like? And it basically does autocomplete. So the same way your spell checker works is how it works. It just does it with the entire content of the internet, and it'll write an article that way. And then you can say, well, what do you want the tone to be? And it will understand different tones. And you say, what sort of voice are you using? So we'd always do a fun one. Like I'd be like, hey, write this in the voice of The Rock. Right. And, it'd be like, hey, jabroni, and it'd start off and say something like that and then answer your question. Right. So, I mean, it's fun. You can give it a tone. You can tell it to write like it's talking to a child. You can give it a voice. Right. You can try to give it a personality. And it will write that way. Because if you don't give it a personality, it has what, I wrote as the Labrador personality. Right. It's like a golden retriever, it
Yeah.
comes up and it's like, hi, I want to help you. And kind of slobbers all over you. And, that's just the kind of tone and tenor of it. So we're using it to write emails. We're using it to auto respond to questions that we can actually take a document. We'll put all the information on someone's business into a text document. We'll take 20, 30, 40 pages, and then we'll feed it in there. And then we use that as the source of truth, and that can answer any questions on that. So what the business's hours are, any links, and we can give it a goal as well. Tell it to, if they're asking pricing questions, tell it to call us and give them our phone number, right? Send them a Calendly invite, send them this form to fill out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like whatever we want the end goal to be, we can instruct it what to do. And then you can put that on your Facebook. You can put that on your LinkedIn. You can put that, on any of the social medias. We can have it work over text. We can have it work over email, et cetera. So
Oh,
that
wow.
is the main thing that we're doing. And what we're working on now is voice, which I'm hoping to have out in the next few months here, to be able to actually have it do a voice call where there's a cool company called 11 Labs. And with 11
Yeah.
Labs, you can clone any voice or use any voice. So I can say, I want a mix of, Morgan Freeman, James Earl Jones, and Barack Obama, and feed it their voices, and then come up with the ultimate kind of smooth voice, right? Or I can
Yeah.
say, hey, let's give this one to Hugh Grant, and
Yeah.
you can pick any voice that you want, and you can manipulate it a little bit, and you can make that your voice for anything that you're doing, and it can listen real time. There's a feature called Whisper on
Yeah.
ChatGPT where it can listen, and it's pretty much perfect.
Oh, wow.
Again, most of this stuff, it's as good as a human, if not better, right now. That they have fed it so much data that it has actually heard more stuff than you've ever heard. right? It's written
Oh,
more, it's read more stuff than you've ever read. It's, you know, so they're saying it's beating people at capture right now. Like, those capture things that you can never get right when you're
yeah.
trying to sign into websites and stuff. Like
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
they're saying it's better than humans at that right now, right? Like
Oh,
it's already
wow.
beating humans most of the time. It certainly could beat me at that. I'm terrible at those things. Um, so
And
anyway,
the really interesting thing, and I just want everyone to hear about this, is because AI is coming, and it's not something that we should be concerned about, but more how can it make it better? Because what I'm hearing and when the use I've had on it is realizing that the cost of doing business is completely going down.
oh yeah,
Um,
so
and
much.
which makes it more accessible to start businesses and start these different ventures. Because, like Thomas just said right there, the customer service person who's going to stand there and read the same script over and over and over again, by 2027, they might have the audio down to where it's not like you might pay a monthly fee for it. And we're seeing this across all different industries unless you really specialize in what you do.
Yeah, like if you're a luminary in your field, it's probably better than you at it. But if, you know, this is a field that you're not the top person in it or one of the top people in your field, the AI will give you an answer that will be top 10%. So it can pass the bar, right? You
Yeah,
know,
but that gives you access to things that are significantly cheaper.
a
Like
hundred
example,
percent, a
like a
hundred percent.
like a lawyer. You have a lawyer question, you can ask ChatGPT this question. Just it'll allow you to A/B test. So like what the lawyer says versus what you say, you can see both options. So it's not that you're completely confined to any one person or any one thing because there's multiple responses you can get and you could see which one might work best for you.
Yeah, and Jordan, what they're really going to do is come out with a specialized legal GPT, right? So
Oh,
there's
really?
already about 10 different guys working on this, at least 10 different companies working on this, where they have fed every case, like I'm in Florida, right? So they've fed every legal case in the state of Florida into this thing. And you can ask it a legal question and it will be able to give you the cases and it will just have the information that they fed in, right? So now it's curated data, right?
Yeah.
So they've gone to Westlaw or they've gone to, LexisNexis. They've taken all that data, they fed it in there. I'm sure LexisNexis will buy one of these things or do it themselves. And now you can ask it a legal question and it'll be able to give you, here's the 5 relevant cases when they were done, what the results were. Here's a summary of everything. And it'll spit that out in seconds, right? How a lot of businesses are going to use this is it's just going to replace a lot of the busy work that people do. So we're automating it for sales to automate the follow-ups, automate responses. So I, for one, I'm not a big fan of most customer support at most places. I'm just going to generalize. I'm sure some people do a great job with it, but most big companies, especially, if you call AT&T or you call Comcast, or a lot of these web companies. Have you tried calling Google before?
Mm.
Right. You know, maybe it's unique to me, but I haven't had a lot of good experiences calling these places.
Yeah.
And I think most people would, kind of agree with me on this one. So now, instead of sitting on hold for 20 minutes and then talking to someone who doesn't know the answer to any of my questions and gives me the wrong answer, you can feed all your best info into the AI. And again, I think these are going to be coming out this like 2024. Like this
Oh,
stuff will
wow.
be out 2020. Yeah, this is coming fast, like
Yeah.
so fast. Um, and it will be able to give you the right answer. It will be able to book an appointment for you. It will be able to troubleshoot your problem with the best information available from the LLM.
Yeah.
One of the
With
really used
LLM.
the large language model, right? So like
Okay.
ChatGPT or the other one we use a lot is Claude.
Okay.
One of the other things for this, and I would recommend next time you have a computer problem, right? You're trying to do something on your computer and it's not working. You're trying to set up your printer, right? You're trying to find a file. Like there's something that you're trying to do on your computer. You're trying to write some code. You're
Yeah.
trying to learn how to code. You're trying to, anything that you're trying to do on your computer. Give it to ChatGPT and be like, hey, I'm trying to do this. And then it's going to give you an answer. And if you still don't understand, you're like, I don't understand the first part of the answer of what I need to do first. Could you break that down for me? Could you take a step back? Could you go into some more detail? And it'll be like, oh, sure. I'm sorry I did a bad job for you. Let me see if I can do better. And it will try to answer this. It is so much better than, again, 95% of the technical support people that you will deal with. It is so good at the computer stuff. It's crazy. And it
Well,
literally has every document that's ever been written. It's got everything on Stack Overflow. It's got everything in every support person's thing. So all of these companies now, I fill out a form, like I go to tech support and I'm like, hey, I'm having this problem. And they're like, well, read these articles. And they send me 3 articles that have nothing to do with my question, right? And you ask the LLM and you generally get the right answer, right? ChatGPT will give you the right answer. If you're like, no, that's wrong. I need to be about this. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Let me try to do better. How about this? And
and just for everyone's context, this ChatGPT is literally you make an account, you log in. It's basically like people are replacing it with Google instead of like Google searching for something. You can ask it what might be the best restaurant, the best Italian restaurant in this town, and it will do the work for you and set it all up where it does a lot of the working stuff instead of you asking just a basic question and it coming up. It does the work for you.
yeah,
Or if you wanted a travel itinerary or anything, it's really, really interesting in how it defines its different ways.
so if you asked me a month or two ago, I said, it's not there yet, right? They just added full internet access to it. So it couldn't access the internet until a few days ago, like a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
Now it is full internet access. So you can ask it any question about anything.
real time.
What are the 10 largest countries by GDP? Because there's a lot of these questions that I ask on Google, and if it's something that's a little esoteric, it'll give
Yeah.
me like a link to something, but it doesn't answer my question. So do you all remember Ask Jeeves? They're like, oh, you just ask it a question, it gives you the answer, and then you tried it, and it just worked the same way Google did, except just not as well, right? Well, this, you ask it a question, and it gives you the answer.
Yeah.
And although it's not infallible, right? Because it's using the internet, so it could have some information on the internet that you might not agree with. Right? It's pretty darn good. But once you start getting into technical stuff, it's so good, it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
even if it gives you a wrong answer, you're like, hey, this answer is wrong. And then you feed it back in. They're like, oh, I made a mistake. Here's it corrected. And sorry about that.
Yeah. So, Thomas, just for everyone listening, how did you even get started in your career and going into AI? How did you get interested in this? Because I feel like a lot of the new stuff people repel, where they go, I don't want to deal with that. Like with the phones, with the computer, people were very turned off. How was your experience in life? How did you become so open to the AI?
So I'm like that with a lot of things too.
Yeah.
So it's like there's this great new gadget, and let me go into the details and try to figure out how it works and spend like 10 hours on it. And I'm like, yeah, I'll wait, right?
Yeah.
Um, but this was so game changing. I mean, I remember I started reading some things on this about what it was able to do,
Yeah.
and you know, uh, um, it became pretty clear to me this is going to change the world. That,
Yeah.
like crypto, there are people like crypto, it's going to change the world. Blockchain is going to change the world. And I'm like, how? Like, how is using a string of numbers as a unique identifier going to change the world? Isn't that like a bank account or a routing
Yeah.
number or like what's so new about this? And why is Bitcoin is life? I'm like, no, it isn't. Um, this any task that a person does, it can do faster and better. It allows you to 10x or 100x your output in almost anything that you're doing. So what we said as a business is just how can we use this in literally every facet of what we do? How
Yeah.
can we start implementing this in every facet of what we do? So, I saw a guy in my AI group, like just my AI group in Miami that I go to, and he's like, we would get these things in for trucking, and then you'd have to have a person take this and manually enter this into a computer, and it would take them like a half hour, and it was error prone. And ChatGPT does it for all intents and purposes instantaneously.
Wow.
And we get 1,000 of these a day as a big shipping company or a big trucking company. So now you're saving 500 hours a day, right? And there's just use case after use case after use case like that, where it's like we were doing this manually. It was error prone and it was slow. And now we have ChatGPT do it, and it takes, a few minutes instead of a few hours. The quality is better. And, that's basically that. So I think every big company right now is looking and saying, what can we use this to do? What processes are we doing manually that aren't really good right now? And how can we fix it? And the ones that I'm tackling are, support or service and sales, which are
Absolutely.
huge time sucks for companies, and most of them don't do a great job with it.
I mean, it's a very challenging space because as a support person, you think about it like that individual is paid on a base salary most of the time, or maybe they're an hourly worker. They're usually not paid the best, which causes it to be, is my response time going to be good? They want really high, like they want them talking to everybody, and they really want it good quality. So they ask for different areas. So it's a very challenging space to even win in as the employee. And the employer is just trying to get the most out of each employee, which is reasonable. That's what their job is, to make the most of their people. But it can be a very challenging space.
Yeah, and a lot of
And
them are offshore and speak English as a second language, right? So now you're talking to someone where English isn't their first language and trying to communicate with them over the phone, which isn't the easiest thing.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. So how'd you even come up with Bigly? How'd you think about that?
so initially, I've changed my business model like 10 times over the last couple of years. So, guys, if you're doing a startup, anyone out there doing a startup, it doesn't have to be the exact idea, right?
Yeah,
It's kind of like your rough draft. You might even throw it out altogether, scrap it up, and just start again, right?
yeah,
It's going to change over time. So don't be concerned about that. But I started out as a CRM and sending platform where I was looking at businesses today, and I would say you look at a small business and they have their email. And
yeah,
then for texting, they're probably everyone's using their cell phone individually. And
yeah.
then for phone calls, they're using a different phone system. And then they probably, if they're decent sized, have some sort of CRM, which doesn't talk to any of those things. It doesn't talk to their email. It doesn't talk to their texts. It doesn't talk to their cell phones. And what ends up happening for all of the sales organizations that I've run is anything that happens outside of that CRM doesn't make it in, right? So someone gets an email, the email never makes it into the CRM. You get a text that definitely doesn't make it into the CRM, right? And now
You
the
can,
data is all over the place and it's very hard to manage.
yeah, just for the audience. So like as people are running their sales processes to keep up for every salesperson, it's good that they input their information, but every time they have to input the information, they're basically doing duplicate work.
Yeah, they're doing
So
busy work and it wastes a lot of time. So the initial idea was to have all of that done through one platform where everything automatically went in, saving every salesperson an hour to a day and having all your information automatically stored in one place. And then there's some other ancillary benefits. And if most of the guy's data is on his cell phone and that employee then quits, you know, half your customer records walk out the door of that salesperson. If you're a small business, that can be disastrous, right?
yeah,
So it's not like, oh, a couple communications didn't make it in. It's like, well, we have these customers, we don't have their phone numbers anymore. And
yeah,
now this guy's going to a competitor and he's probably going to steal all of our business and we can't even call these guys.
yeah,
Right. So, there's some big reasons that I thought this would be a hit with folks, and it didn't really take off that much. And the other part of what we were doing was being able to do these things at scale, being able
yeah,
to send out messages at scale, being able to say, okay, I'm going to, take my database. I have 10,000 people in it. I'm going to segment it down to this group of 1,000, be able to hit send and send them all a text or send them all an email. Um, And again, wildly useful for my business. It really moved the needle on what I was doing when I had my staffing companies. Being able to quickly segment my database from millions of people down to a couple hundred and target the exact group that I want to target and send them a message that looks like it was personalized for me, that looked like it was 1-to-1, but it was really 1-to-200. And
Absolutely. And what caused you to jump from staffing to starting your own business?
well, I own my own business there. So
Yeah.
I had a staffing company that I was doing, between 10 and 15 million a year for many years. And then I sat on the board of a much larger staffing company. But I didn't love the space. I liked the tools.
Yeah.
I like the tools. I like the automation. I like that piece of it. Frankly, it's not a great industry anymore. It's getting really disrupted by technology.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to be in the horse and buggy whip industry. I wanted to be doing the new stuff. And this is, to me, this is the most exciting technology on earth. This is going to change the world more in 5 years than the internet did in the last 30.
Yeah, and the part you brought up that's really fascinating is the tech and the systems. Because what I've realized is once you have this implemented into your software or into your lifestyle, it's just you don't have to do repeat tasks again. Like repeat tasks become exponentially easier because
Yeah.
they know how to answer them. And like for me, I've been utilizing it with the softwares I use. They started putting in AI features and it literally writes the entire description for the podcast.
Yeah.
It puts the blog. I never wrote a blog before AI wrote the blog because I'm like, I don't know how to write a blog. Like, I don't want to spend the time writing a blog. I don't want to write a blog. And they do
I
it
did the
automatically.
same thing. I was gonna write blog posts, and I'd sit down and I wrote like the first two, and then it would become a task, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna spend like 3 hours on this thing, and let me figure, where do I have 3 hours to spend? And like, I just didn't
Is
have
it
the
really
time.
revenue generating? Like, it's just
Yeah,
like,
and
what's the point?
I might get some revenue out of this down the road, 6 months from now, a year from now, like, you know, and when you're a small shop, right? When you're a solo practitioner, there's 4 or 5 employees and everyone's busy as hell,
You got to move the
it's,
needle.
yeah. And this isn't my forte. It's not what I love doing. I don't love being a
Exact.
writer.
And I think that's the part where it's staying in your zone of genius, where you're able to impact other areas, but you're able to stay inside of your zone of genius, which is super important because most of the time we miss that because we're so busy living our lives that we don't find what we do well. Like, for example, I'm not the best at editing the videos or doing the clips or any of that stuff. I could care less about that, honestly. However, you want to post it on social media so you can see the impacts and get more reach, et cetera, et cetera. There are now softwares that you literally drop your video in. They do the editing for you. If you want to add features, if you want to get rid of features, and the best part is it's updating every single day. Every day you log in and there's a new feature or a new this or a new that. And it's making life a lot easier so
Yeah,
that
and
you can
if
stay in your zone of genius.
I'll give everyone a business idea right now. Here's a way that you can make a lot of money fast. If you're looking for something to do and you don't know what to do and you're just looking to start out, figure out how to use one of these tools. Figure out how to use an editing tool. Figure out how to use one of these things. And then reach out to some businesses and say, hey, do you need video editing? Right? Or find people who are posting things that their videos aren't very good on social media and that they have less than 1,000 followers, that they're getting 10 views every time they post something. So the way the social media works is you basically have 3 seconds to get someone's attention, and they look at how long people watch the video. So if they're going to show your video, it doesn't matter if it's TikTok or if it's Facebook or Instagram, they're going to show your video to 30 or 40 people. And if enough of those people don't watch past 3 seconds, they don't show it to anyone else, and your video's dead,
Yeah.
right? And it just never sees the light of day again. And if it starts getting views, they show it to a larger audience and a larger audience and a larger audience. And that's how a lot of things. And then if people start sharing it and doing the other things,
Yeah.
that's how it can go viral. But like we were at the beginning, we started showing our logo for the first like 3 to 5 seconds of the video. We did the little animation. We'd show our logo, and people are like, "Oh, ad next," and they would just keep scrolling. So I think we must have posted 50 videos or something before we realized like we were shooting ourselves in the foot every time on one of these. Right.
Absolutely. But that's the whole point, is that you're learning constantly. You learn throughout it. And I think that idea of sharing the AI, like, hey, we'll clip up your videos for you for like super discounted. Yeah.
Figure out how to use one of these tools and then just offer that service to people. Hey, do you need customized pictures for your business? And then you can go to Stable Diffusion or Midjourney or just do it in ChatGPT and come up with that picture in like 10 seconds. And then be like, I made these 10 pictures for you. Here you go. Give me my $150. Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, that's great. You did those so perfect. They look beautiful. Right.
Yeah.
And it took you like all of 5 minutes using one of these AI tools. And you
Yeah.
could do that with blogging. You can do that. So any of these guys who don't want to figure it out, they're like, I'm not going to figure out AI. That's for other people. Right. You can just charge them to do it for them, and it'll take you like 5 minutes. And for literally almost anything, for video editing, for writing, right, for pictures, for creating videos, for, you name it. There's a
Yeah.
tool
No,
that does it for free or virtually free that you can become an expert in and just, do that for other people.
at this point, absolutely. So question for you. How is ChatGPT going to be making money? How, like, I know they have some premiums, but how are they going to make money?
So there's two ways, right? They have a subscription service for consumers where you get the newest version, you get all the bells and whistles, you get some premium, stuff in there, and that's like $20 a month. But how they're really going to be making money is they've been API. So their API,
And what's an API for everyone? Just a basic.
so it's basically how computers talk to each other. It's like, how we're doing this phone call right now. We're doing this, I guess, whatever this is, right?
Podcast.
Zoom
Yeah.
meeting, right? Well, it works the same way, except for instead of me and you talking to each other, it's the computer sharing data. So it's like a phone call, right? And that's the best way I can describe it to folks, where I think it just clicks and makes sense.
Yes.
So I can hook my computer to something that you've built. So maybe you spent $1 billion building this out. Like ChatGPT got like $10 billion, and I want to do something custom with it. So now I can just call ChatGPT whenever I need it, and they're going to say, okay, how many tokens did you use? Right? How many credits did you use? You used, 200 tokens. That'll be $1. And I'm just making these numbers up, but something like that, right? Or used 1,000 tokens. That'll be $1.
Yeah.
And they'll bill you the dollar, and you get their access on demand whenever you need it.
Okay.
That's how they're going to be making all their money. And for the consumers, if you asked me, 6 months ago, I'd say it's kind of a toy. Now that there's full access to the internet, I think it's very useful. Again, if you're using it for anything technical, it's wildly useful. Wildly useful. You can learn to program on it. You can literally, if you're like, I want to build something from scratch, right? And I'm going to use Bubble or I'm going to use JavaScript. I'll be like, okay, I've never programmed JavaScript before. How do I start? And it'll walk you through step by step on everything you need to do. And then if it tells you something you don't understand, you can be like, I don't understand that. I need more, I need more information. How do I do this step? I'm lost. And it'll literally say, oh, I'm so sorry. And it'll just tell you everything again. Right. But for where they're making money, it's that API. That's going to be 99%, 95% of their sales over the next few years.
And the super important thing that Thomas just brought up there is that when people used to do that, when you would get coding certifications, you would go to school for 6 months to go learn from a teacher, spend thousands of dollars to train on this. And now you have the option to do it for free. Yeah. In which case they say, hey, I want to learn this. I don't know how to do this. I will teach you for free.
And it's better.
And it's better. And like, we don't usually recognize free as value, but it's super important to start realizing that, because if you want to apply this, you can learn anything, especially as Thomas is saying, the technical components, where it's like, how do you Photoshop? How do you put up a YouTube video? How do you clip the videos? How do you do this? Best software for this. Please do this. It will do the activities for you. And it's there shouldn't be any excuses on like opportunity is abundant. It's just you need to apply yourself in learning these different skills and be open to these new ideas. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're definitely open because there's many different speakers coming in and sharing these different insights. So I completely agree with that. So Thomas, where do you see this going in the future? Like, are people going to be losing their jobs? Are they going to be readjusting their jobs? Like, where do you see this going?
Yeah.
Let's say
So
like 2025, 27, 2030.
because of this API, it's going to be built into everything, right? So between them and Claude is the one that's backed by Amazon, ChatGPT is the one that's backed by Microsoft. They've both raised billions of dollars primarily from those companies. It's going to be in everything. Right now, every engineer on earth is building this into their product suite in the Fortune 500 companies. I would learn these tools. I would learn them now. If you have a business, if you're working doing something, if you know how to use this stuff, you're going to be very valuable. If you don't, and someone else in your company learns how to use this stuff, they're going to become very valuable. And if they are now able to do 5 times the work, if they're able to do the work of the whole department by themselves in half the time, you become expendable. So
Yeah.
is there going to be job losses? 1,000% there's going to be job losses. There's probably going to be hundreds of millions of job losses in the most boring, menial, repetitive jobs that we have, right? If you're a customer service rep, your job's in trouble, right? If you are, this is going to start driving at some point relatively soon. But I think really something that is done on a computer that is a lot of manual, repetitive type stuff, it is going to start doing for us better, faster, cheaper.
Yes.
Bookkeeping, anything along those lines where someone does something on a computer, data entry, bookkeeping, support, answering emails, anything like that. Those jobs are gone in a few years, or at least 90% of them are.
And how would someone, as you mentioned, they should learn ChatGPT or Claude? How would you recommend they learn it? And what would that look like learning
I would
wise?
start playing around with it. I would go to ChatGPT and I'd start asking it questions. Ask it,
Yeah.
what are the new tools that seem to be the best that are out here? And it will go to the internet. It will find all the new tools. And, say you do video editing. Say, I'm particularly interested in video editing. What would the new tools be? Right?
Yeah.
Could you walk me through how to use these? Can you show me how to do it? I would start playing with it now. There's a lot of people who, can probably save 90% of their time of what they're doing already by just implementing this in their
Or
current thing. And if you ask it how to do it, it'll show you how to implement it. It'll tell you step by step how to do it. Right. So
or yeah, or you can add in other things, as me and Thomas were both saying, we don't like writing blogs, but yet we're writing more blogs than we ever did before because it's easier. So
yeah, so easy.
it might be that you might add things in, you might remove activities, it might limit time. Like it's just an enhancement. So if you could allocate 30 minutes a day to just explore that compounding when it's really time and people go, and your boss comes down and they go, so tell me about ChatGPT. And you're like, well, actually, I do know a lot more about this. And I'm actually super like, because it's that, or like Thomas was saying, you can make an AI agency where you're helping outdated businesses and bringing them to the 21st century, and
You
they
don't
can
even
get
need to
more.
call it an AI agency. You can just say, hey, you need pictures, you need videos, you need this, you need that. Like find a niche that you like and start selling it to folks. Right.
Yeah.
It can be, you don't have to call it an AI agency. You might scare them with the AI agency. They're like, oh, we don't need that. Like, all I need is pictures, right? And you're like, how much will you pay me? And they're like, we'll pay you 200 a week if you can get me 10 good pictures or 20 good pictures, right? As a graphic designer, I need a graphic designer. Well,
Just
I
sell
can
the
screw up.
vacation. Yeah.
I can screw up a stick figure. I can't draw to save my life. Never been any good at it, right? last night we were playing around with something. We wanted to get some custom images, and I was playing around in ChatGPT for 5 minutes, and I came up with these beautiful pictures that I put in prompt. I'm like, that isn't exactly how I looked. And then I'm like, make that bigger, make that smaller, right? Have the clouds be purple, and we just played around with it for like 5 minutes, and they looked amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. It was exactly what I wanted. And,
Yeah.
it was like 5 minutes. And, it was something that it would have taken a professional artist, maybe a month to draw. I mean,
On top of that, it's the back and forth real time feedback that they're available. You don't have to pay them and then wait for the update, wait for the update again, wait for the update again. You're updating real time, which is massive. It's
it was
huge.
5 minutes. It was 5 minutes. I
Yeah.
had 3 fully done pictures for, something we were working on. I'm doing a children's book with my daughter,
Yeah.
and she is using it to do all of the illustrations for the book, and I'm going to help her proofread it at the end, right, to just make sure the grammar is okay and stuff like that. But like, she's using it. She's 9, right? And
Yeah.
if you don't like typing, you can actually hit a button and just talk to it.
So how, so how do you think about AI implementing against, because I know some schools are banning it, some people are struggling with it, but you look at some of this homework and you're like, if you just type this into ChatGPT, you have the 5 paragraph essay. Like,
Yeah, you
what do you
say
think
they're
about that?
banning it. They're not going to be able to ban it, right?
Yeah.
So, like everything else, there was a funny one I heard the other day that so it does something called hallucinate, right? Which
Okay.
occasionally, if it doesn't know the right information, it will just make stuff up.
Okay.
And one of our prompts is don't make stuff up if you don't know the right answer.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so this lawyer was using it, and he had decided that he was just going to use it for his legal cases and actually not do anything. And he just used it, and it decided to make something up that time. It just made up a case that didn't exist, and he didn't actually check to see if it was a real case. So
Yeah.
it sourced something that just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting, losing his license, right? Because he didn't actually verify that the thing. So he just made up. It was like he went into court and he's like, in this case in 1962, and the other parties like looking for it. They're going on. They're trying to find. They're like, there is no case in 1962. Where do you get it? And he finally just admitted, like, I had ChatGPT do everything for me. I just didn't spend any time on it. And they're like, well, that's not going to work. So you do have to check it. Like with anything else, you're supposed to like check your work, right? Make
Yeah.
sure, make sure it's accurate, make sure it looks okay. You
But
should probably proofread it. But
the real thing is that it's going to transition a lot of people from doing that manual work to more managers and overseers of the technology. And it's a different role set and it's a different understanding of your responsibilities, but a lot
this is going
less
to be
work.
like telling people not to use a calculator. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's going to be like the calculator.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to use it. You No one's going to do higher level math by hand, right? No one's going to be. I want you to do 4,268 times 3,597. Just do it in your head or do it by hand. You're going to use a calculator. This is the
Yeah.
calculator for anything written, any picture, anything like
Yeah.
that.
So you're encouraging it with your children.
Yeah. Oh, they need to learn. I mean, it's I think you're crippling them if they don't know how to use this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you get a kid who gets out of school and he's never used a computer before, and then you want to go work at a job, and okay, you're going to be on a computer all day, and he's never touched it before. That kid's
Yeah.
in trouble, right? And he's going to have
Yeah.
a really steep learning curve there, and it's going to be pretty hard for him, much harder than the other people. And might get fired. Like, so you're not doing them any favors by hiding them from the technology.
Yeah. I love
So
that.
that's
And
how I
have
look
them
at it.
actually embrace it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
so she's doing a children's book right now, and I'm helping a little, but like she's doing like 95% of it, and then we're going to publish it to the Amazon Kindle. And I've never done that before, but I'm sure ChatGPT can tell me how to do it. So
I mean, it's incredible nowadays what's available and what's possible, and we constrain ourselves too many times. And how do you find yourself being able to be open to new ideas and open to new technologies. And I know that's what your forte is, but I'm just saying for anyone who might be struggling with the concept of like, this is a lot. Like,
It's
how does,
tough. I mean,
yeah,
this for me, this makes it easier. I like things that make my life easier. So
yeah,
when I have to go and sit down and figure something out and beat my head against the wall, I hate it, right? I was
yeah.
trying to set up Starlink this weekend, right? And so I
Okay.
put it on my roof because I got a place, I got a vacation house. We don't get any internet, right? The internet's spotty, we were having trouble getting service. So we put a Starlink on the roof.
Okay.
And me trying to fight through that thing for like 2 hours, trying to like set up my password, I mean, it was brutal, right?
Yeah.
It's frustrating. I don't know what's going wrong. I'm going, okay, I'm in settings. Where do I do this? There's nothing that says
Yeah.
reset password, and I can't find it anywhere. I guess there wasn't any documentation out there for ChatGPT to pick up on, right? Like, I couldn't figure out, like, it literally took me like 2 hours. I go talk to support. There's no phone number to call, right? I
Yeah.
go to send them a message. They get back to me. They got back to me after I left, right? A few days later, I did it on a Saturday. They got back to me Monday, right?
Yeah.
Which is always useful when you're trying to set something up. Um, so like, no, I mean, that's a frustrating, terrible process for me. I don't like it. But something that makes my life easier, is, I think it's great. And this is one of these tools that just makes your life easier. And right now I'm getting better results than I am from Google because I'll
Yeah.
just get the answer to my question. So
Yeah.
if I want a question answered, I ask it and it generally gives me the right answer. And if it's a little off base, I say, hey, I think this is a little off base, or this didn't work right. Like I'll literally copy and paste and, hey, I got this error or it's saying this or whatever. And it's like, oh, well, it must mean this then. But, gives me the new answer.
Yeah.
Right. Where I would have been frustrated, like, what the hell do I do next? Right. So
Yeah.
to me, this just makes things easier to do. Anything that makes my life easier, I'm a big fan of.
Absolutely. And one of the other big use cases of it is there's this writing tool I use. It's called Heritage. And I paid like $20 to have it. I think you can get it forever for like $20. But literally in ChatGPT, you can they'll write you something out and you go right at third grade level or right at fifth grade level. And they'll adjust it and they'll keep changing it. And you're like, simplify it, shorter, longer, this,
Yep.
that. And it really does help because it's doing a lot of the thinking in a different way where it will manually do the work for you and you're kind of the manager there directing it,
Yeah,
which I think is, yeah,
that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
100%. Thomas, this has been awesome. You are super informative and AI and
I
there's
can't. We
just a
just
lot
did the
going
whole
on.
thing on ChatGPT almost.
I
It's
know. It
we
wasn't
didn't get into any of the
expected.
other stuff we were going to talk about.
I know it wasn't not expected, but I mean, I think it's important though, because the audience needs to know about this stuff. And if it's overemphasized, there will be more value along the way because they'll be like, wait, let me look at this thing.
It's
Like,
so easy to use.
yeah,
It's like typing into Google. It's basically you just type a sentence into it, just like you would do Google, except it'll tell you how to do everything. So if I ask Google, how do I set up my printer? Google's not going to be able to tell me the answer. They might send me to a link to HP, right? This will actually give me step-by-step instructions.
across all the different companies and all the
Yeah.
different platforms and all the different things. So it like literally combines all the information. So it's not just, hey, this person wrote this article 3 years ago, and I hope the printer's not updated because then it won't work. Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And be like, "Hey, show me how to show me how to do this on my printer." And I'll be like, "Sure." So you do this, and like for an HP printer, it's like, "Oh, I got a Brother printer." Oh, for Brother, you need to do it this way, and you'll just tell it that, and then it says, "Here's how to do it on Brother." And might say for this version, for this version, or this version. I said, "Well, where do I find the versions?" It's written on the cover. If you look on the right hand side, next to the start button. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I look and I see it and I put in the version type. I say, oh, well, now you do this. Like it does it step by step. And if you don't understand how to do something, it'll like take a step back, like clarify that step, and then you can go on to the next one. So yeah, I mean, it's just wildly useful for stuff in general. I mean, for almost
Absolutely.
anything.
So Thomas, where can people reach you, learn more about Bigly? Where can they reach you at?
Well,
I'm
so a
definitely
little bit
going to put
about Bigly.
ChatGPT in the show notes.
No. I mean, yeah, and I have a company too that does some stuff like, so anyway, no, you can reach me for Bigly, biglysales.com. We are automating the sales process and the support process for businesses. Our SDK is coming out, any day now. So if you just want to implement some of these features for support or for automating the responses to any of your social media, like one of the big issues that we had is like people would write us on Facebook and we wouldn't notice for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Right? I don't check it every day, or they would write an email and it's like no one checked that or no one responded to that. So a lot of the issues where I'm kind of complaining about other people, we'd have the same problems, right? They're problems everyone has because you just can't be everywhere at once, especially if you're a small
Yeah.
business. So I have 10 different social media platforms I'm on. We're going to check them all every day and my email every second and, my Slack channel and all these other places. Well, you can just have it automate all those responses, answer any question. So that's a big thing that we're doing. Auto respond to all of those queries with all of your exact business information, so that we can set up for anyone who needs help with that. And the other big thing that we're doing is helping out automate the entire sales process, cradle to grave. We found that a lot of people didn't want a sending platform or they didn't want a CRM. What they wanted was more sales.
Yeah.
Right. So we're providing hot leads to people. We've gone from, really a platform that focuses on sending to a platform that starts with advertising, which is how you need to do it with the new TCPA rules.
Yeah.
They just changed the laws. It's going to mean a lot less spam for everyone. It's going to mean much harsher penalties for businesses that aren't following the new rules. If you are buying data, I would talk to your lawyers because what was legal 2 weeks ago is not going to be legal at some point in 2024. And
Yeah.
I have a feeling the government is going to be going after people very harshly, and it might be, hey, for every violation, it's a $500 fine. And let's see, you guys violated that 100,000 times last year. So 100,000 times 500. Please write us a check for $50 million at your earliest convenience.
And a lot of what this is because me and Thomas were talking about this beforehand. It's essentially all the spam texts you've been getting, all the spam calls, all the spam emails. And when you look at them and you go, I have never talked to that person. I've never given them my information. It's because maybe you signed up for something and then they sold your information to 100 different retailers or different providers, and then they're all spamming you. It's like when you go on different networks and you're just getting you from everywhere. And that's basically what this is trying to stop, because I think anytime you're hanging out with more than 4 people for more than like 3 hours, someone got a spam call. Like it is just inevitable. And it's just decline. Like you don't even trust the calls anymore.
They're closing the loopholes. So if you filled out a form anywhere on the internet, what ended up happening is whoever had that form probably resold your data a bunch of different times, and they could do it legally, right? Because you
Yeah.
filled out a form and they had something in their terms of conditions with no one on earth reads that says, hey, I can provide this to my data partners, right? And their data partners might be 1,000 other companies that they've partnered with to buy leads from them, and then it gets sold and sold and sold and sold and sold. So you could go down the chain, 3 months, and maybe that lead was sold for a couple of pennies to 50 different companies or 100 different companies. And they
Yeah.
actually, the way the law was written before, have the legal ability to call you as long as you're not on the do not call list. So it's just getting rid of all these loopholes that existed, and it's going to be one-to-one. If I sign up for something from ABC Company, I can only be called by ABC Company. I can only be texted by ABC Company. I can't be texted by a litany of other people I didn't know were going to be getting my information. So
Absolutely.
it's something that it's going to be very good for folks. But for businesses, if you've been doing business that way, where you've been buying this data, you're probably going to need to move to a more advertising-based model, or you're going to need, if to start getting leads in a new way. So we're providing those leads to businesses, and then we're nurturing those leads using the AI and following up using the AI, doing the auto responses with the AI and pushing them towards a goal to get on a phone call, to book an appointment, to do whatever in automated fashion. But everything is going to start with that Google ad, with that Facebook ad, with that Pinterest ad, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So the social media companies are probably all cheap right now.
Absolutely.
Certainly Facebook. I love Facebook, the stock right now. Like, if I loved it even more at 100 when you were buying, Jordan. But
absolutely. Thomas, thank you. This has been awesome.
Hey, no, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for reaching the end of the podcast. For that, we'll give you a complimentary coaching session in the link below with Edwards Consulting. Hope to see you there, and have a great day and keep clocking in.